We have recently told you about riders like Bjarne Riis, who obtained more than amazing results by using doping substances. But did you know that those who gave them those vials and pills were sometimes also other riders? This is the story of Rodolfo Massi, the most famous narco of the peloton in the 90s, who went from being last in the Tour de France to being a holy terror in the mountains. And at a ripe old age as well. Do you want to hear about it? Without any further ado then, let the show begin.
But before it begins, let's dedicate a moment to our sponsor, Surfshark, the VPN that will revolutionise the market for you. What is Surfshark and what is a VPN? Don't worry my friend, your uncle's cycling stories will tell you. Imagine that you want to watch those Italian competitions that can only be seen online within Italian territory and you can't register to watch them. Now with Surfshark, you can. You're on the roads of the Tour de France, far from your home country, supporting your favourite pedalists. But until they pass, what do? How can you watch your favourite Netflix series? With Surfshark, man. Not only that, you can also connect to your online banking whenever you want. Walk quietly with your smartphone while connected to safe public networks. Or connect to YouTube in countries where it's forbidden to watch your favourite cycling series. And unlike other VPNs, Surfshark offers you 24 hours customer support, unlimited VPNs on all types of devices, and if you're not happy, an impressive 30-day money-back guarantee. Even you, low-cost Lance, you can do it if you lose another doping trial, crack. And best of all, if you use the code CYCLINGS when you want to join Surfshark, you'll get 83% off and 3 months free. Yep, 3 months free. So amazing that you feel like you've gone from cleaning fish to winning the Tour de France. Faster than Mark Cavendish and easier to use than Dr. Ferrari's recipes. Join Surfshark and be happier in your life, my friend. Now, let the show begin.
Rodolfo Massi was born in 1965 in a small village in eastern Italy, and he knew right away that he wanted to make a living from cycling, albeit in a different way than usual. After a hard crash during his first years as a professional in the Giro d'Italia, he hit rock bottom when he finished last in the 1990 Tour, an edition in which Greg LeMond took his final victory in the great French stage race, and one in which his compatriot Claudio Chiappucci went from being a complete unknown to almost winning. It was there that a spark went off in Massi's head, and he decided to take an interest in performance-enhancing substances, especially EPO, which was beginning to spread massively through the European peloton at the time. Massi was in the ideal team to start testing EPO, the mythical Seracime Ariastea, where he coincided with, amongst others, Bjarne Riis, who in 1993 mutated from a simple gregario to a Tour de France contender. A transformation that Rodolfo Massi himself also experienced when he began to gain victories in his 30s, such as a stage in the 1996 Giro d'Italia. By then, however, he was already better known for his off-road activities, where he started to become one of the peloton's biggest doping substance traffickers. The lightweight Italian cyclist had multiple contacts in Europe and in Mexico, where he had trained when he fell early in his career and one of his legs ended up measuring 8mm less than the other. He started dealing EPO, corticosteroids, anabolic steroids and all kinds of performance enhancing substances, and even picked up a narco nickname. Rodolfo Massi had become the Little Chemist, a character who was earning a good salary, but not so much for his victories, but more for selling drugs to cyclists in his inner circle, especially those who met with doctors like Luigi Cecchini. In 1998, he decided that his time had finally come, after observing the triumphs and victories of those who traded with him, and decided to invest it all in improving his own personal performance, but also that of his team, a Casino AG2R, which at the time was one of the worst teams in the peloton, a mixture of very young promises and old men who had already given the best of themselves on a bicycle. But that year they became real killers, with more than 50 victories in the whole calendar. To give you an idea, it's as if the archaea of Nairo Quintana arrived in 2022 and obtained victories at the level of Quickstep, and all by the grace of the great Rodolfo Massi. The first big notch of what was to be his season came at Liège, one of cycling's monuments, and which happened to have a magnificent edition in that season, with a legendary breakaway by the former Giro winner Evgeny Berzin, and the first duel between Bartoli and Vandenbroek. The little chemist took advantage of this situation to take the lead, and after holding off Laurent Jalabert himself, he finished third behind the Once rider in that edition. Evidently, it was his first podium in a classic at this level. All this after a season in which he had also won the Tour of the Mediterranean and one stage in the Criterium International, as well as finishing in the top 10 in such prestigious races such as the Vuelta al País Vasco. However, his main goal had not arrived, no more and no less than the Tour de France, 8 years after finishing last. That particular edition of the Tour was the one that was overshadowed by the Festina case, which eliminated from the French round the favourite team to win and the radioactive versions of Richard Virenque and Alex Zülle, a situation that was taken advantage of by the Casino team, who brought the dynamite that exploded what remained of the peloton in the Tour. They all went on the attack on the slopes of the mythical Col d'Aubisque in the first stage in the Pyrenees, with a classic route that included the Tourmalet, the Aspan and the Persuade. With 100 kilometres to go, Massi and his compatriot Alberto Eli attacked, and they broke away with Gons Vasseur. And from the very first moment, it was clear that they were riding at a much higher level than the pack, in which the Telecom team of Jan Ullrich and Bjarne Riis were working. There he was, the little old man who was neither a climber nor a sprinter, but he was crowning the most legendary mountain passes in the Pyrenees in first place at the age of 33, without having done much else in his career. Although in the last climb of the Persuade, Marco Pantani launched his first huge attack as a pirate in that edition, but it was not enough to catch Rodolfo Massi, who won one of the hardest and classic stages of world cycling, a performance worthy of Tony Montana himself. Seeing how he celebrated the victory in Bagnères de Luchon, he only lacked a machine gun and a charismatic phrase to do as well as a legendary Al Pacino. And like that famous narco in fiction, Rodolfo Massi decided to go to the limit. Why not try to shit in the convent if he was already inside? The images speak for themselves. The short guy with wrinkles on his face was wearing the red polka dot jersey that credited him as King of the Mountains, and he decided to honour it, as very few riders of his level did in the history of the Tour de France. Rare was the day that Massi did not get into a breakaway on a mountain day and score lots of points. One such example was the day when Marco Pantani won the Tour on the Deux Alpes. On that day, Massi came second to the finish line in this epic performance, in which, as you can see, he took the stickers off the bike in the final sprint to the Spanish Fernando Escartin, not caring at all about the image of suspicion that he was generating. On precisely the same tour in which they were arresting riders from each and every one of the teams. He had already won the mountains classification, and he wanted more, since he was already in 7th place in the general classification. But then the unexpected happened for Massi. That same afternoon, a French cyclist confessed to the police that the little chemist was the very same narco who passed him the performance-enhancing substances. The police soon found Massi's connections to the Team Festina network and quickly went to the hotel in Aix-les-Bains where the Casino team was staying. His Danish teammate Bo Hamburger also confessed to taking the substances that Rodolfo passed on to him, and the Italian cyclist was arrested that same night. He would never again set foot on a road in the Tour de France, and this just as he was about to ascend to his throne. Interestingly, Bjarne Riis that same day told the press that he knew Massi was a drug dealer. If other Danish cyclists were evidently part of his network, and he had colleagues in common from his time at Ariostea, the connection is clear. Rodolfo Massi also has a small portion of the 1996 Tour de France to his credit.